I am so excited today to have Laurel Amabile, Executive Director of the Chalice Oak Foundation, and the Reverend John Morehouse, President and Senior Consultant of the Chalice Oak Foundation, with me here today. I'm glad you guys could join us.
Thanks, Peter.
Wonderful to be here, Peter. Thank you.
So I wanted to just say a word about the context of the work of your foundation and emerging programs, justice ministries today, especially within this congregational and Unitarian Universalist context. I've been working with congregations and really with integrating ministry and media and how do we adapt to changing culture, technology, really for the last 10 years. And I think that especially lately, as we're talking about how do congregations and does our faith reach people who are spiritual, not religious? How do we adjust to a changing religious landscape? There are just so many ways that our congregations are trying to engage in justice work and engage with different people. So I'm so happy to learn about what you're doing with Chalice, the Chalice Oak Foundation. So I'd love to give you the opportunity to tell everyone a little bit about your organization and the services you offer. But in short, so the Chalice Oak Foundation works with emerging justice ministries programs, and you help programs work towards being full-fledged, strong nonprofits. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. I think the largest part of our work has been to work with groups that are seeking their own nonprofit status, so they're more viable, and we provide fiscal sponsorship so that they can apply for grants under our 501c3 heading. This is a popular program with some of the groups that have signed on with us, and they become a program of the foundation until such a time as they have achieved their own 501c3 status and or they feel financially and strategically up to speed. And so we provide, in addition to the fiscal sponsorship, some strategic planning, some fundraising advice. We have a grant writer that works with us to help people write grants. So it's really a way to take a group that perhaps is living on a shoestring and get into the game a little more aggressively at this next level. That is really what we do.
Great. Now, Laurel, you and I were talking a little bit earlier about just some of the specific services that you offer. Can you just tell us, just give an overview of the specific things? So one thing we talked about is fiscal sponsorship. So can you tell us exactly what is fiscal sponsorship, and if you're working with a congregation, how would that work for you to engage with them, with that service?
Right. Well, we use what's called a Model C fiscal sponsorship, and this means that we extend our 501c3 status to help the projects which apply to us. So a congregation would, or a program would apply to us, and if we accept this project as one of ours that fits with our mission, then we can pre-approve grants for the funds that they help to raise and that we help support them in using appropriately to the mission, to their mission and our mission. So we create this alignment, and they can get some supports with that aspect of their funding and revenue stream. And then they can raise money through grants and through other means to help support their program, while we help them in managing those funds and account for those funds. So there's an administration fee of 12% of the funds raised that go to cover our costs for those administrative functions.
So before a program or ministry is its own nonprofit, they're
Right.
able to do fundraising through the Chalice Oak Foundation. So it's like you're extending your umbrella as a nonprofit over them.
And on our website, which is www.chaliceoak.org, there are pages for each one of our programs so that we also extend our visibility through our web presence, and there's donate buttons for each of our projects there on our website as well as theirs.
Great. Now, before we hear a little bit more about some of the other services you offer and the ways you work with these programs, like board development, helping with reviewing grants, here's a question for the two of you. Now, congregations are doing justice work all the time in different capacities, or we hope so. So in what situation or what circumstances do you think a program should actually move towards becoming a nonprofit? So, like, not everything we do as a congregation and through justice work shouldn't be, necessarily grow into a separate nonprofit. So, like, in what situations would you recommend that a program really think seriously about moving in that direction?
Let's say, for instance, that it's a program that is working with in partnership with a community group, another community group, for instance, or they would like to extend their relationship to other Unitarian Universalist churches or other congregations and other faith groups. When it becomes more than just the program of the church or of the congregation, then it's worth looking into becoming a independent 501c3 organization where those linkages are easier to manage because you're dealing with a coalition, and that coalition now has its own common umbrella. And then you have access to funding, which could be more extensive, excuse me, than just the congregation. Some funding groups don't fund programs that come out of religious organizations. They'll only fund if it is an independent 501c3. And that's true of actually corporate funding as well. A lot of corporations who provide grants and resources do not give money to religious organizations for lots of very complicated reasons. And having your own 501c3 organization or being under Chalice Oak's umbrella until you're at that place is one opportunity to get at that money, which is your program doing another level of service.
So are you saying?
Go ahead.
Yeah, John. So there are certain funds out there that are not available if you are a congregation or a specific faith-based group. Now, does the Chalice Oak Foundation, it is as a separate foundation that's working with nonprofits, you're not considered to be a religion or a church in that sense?
And it depends a little bit on who the funding authority is. Some authorities will take that one-off relationship from our religious origins as enough. Others think that's too close in. It just depends on the granting institution. But you have a much better chance if you want to go after that money if you're operating under an organization that is not directly a faith-based group.
So now you said that it's when the work that you're doing is really moving beyond the congregation. So you're saying, if you're doing a lot of work with other partner organizations, working the community, and that the work of the program ministry is really not focused within the congregation as a whole, but is like longer sustained work out in the community. Can you just clarify that a little bit?
So better to explain this perhaps with an example. So the Unitarian Universalist Justice Group in Arizona, UUJAZ, is a coalition of congregations, but not congregations. It's a coalition of interested people from congregations across Arizona. And when we took them on as a program, we were able to provide them 501c3 and 501c4 because they also had some lobbying that they were doing. We were able to provide them that early nonprofit umbrella so that they could that all the donations that came in, including donations from other organizations that were not necessarily interested in giving directly to congregations, could give. And That's one of our great success stories. Is they were able to do that. They were able to grow in effectiveness and size. They became their own 501c3 organization last year. We were able to launch them with our blessings, and that's one example. But there are others. There are also organizations that we sponsor through our program that are not necessarily Unitarian Universalist. We have an association with a group of, most of them are government workers, as a matter of fact, called the Southeast Sustainability Network. And they work on sustainability issues very much in line with our values, but they don't work with us as Unitarian Universalists. They work with us as justice-minded people. We just happen to have the same values, which are Unitarian Universalist values.
Great. Well, Laurel, you are the executive director of the Chalice Oak Foundation. I actually met you years ago when we were both working through the UUA. I mean, you have so much stewardship and fundraising experience within our Unitarian Universalist world. I'm really excited to see you working with the Chalice Oak Foundation and congregations in this way. Can you tell us, especially, and we have some viewers who've joined us, can you tell us if there's a program or ministry that is emerging and is thinking maybe of moving in this direction of nonprofit development and is thinking that they could benefit from some support and is thinking, ooh, maybe I should connect with the Chalice Oak Foundation. Can you tell us, how does one go about starting that process? I mean, you mentioned that you're the first point of contact. So if you could explain, for someone who's thinking, oh, maybe I should be in touch with Chalice Oak, what are the steps? How do they connect with you? And then what are the different services? Because you mentioned to me when we were talking earlier that there's being a fiscal agent, but there are other things that you do as well.
Right. The very first step is to just get in touch with me. You can go to chaliceoak.org website and find contact information there. You can fill out a form there for more information, or you can just simply email me at executivedirector@chaliceoak.org, and I'll get back in touch with you. What we do is we talk about kind of where you are in your developmental process, what you're aspiring to do, if you've done any particular organizational steps to this point, like bylaws and articles of corporation. You may have a bank account and goals and mission statement all established, or those are things that you need to put in place. And so what we help you to do is to figure out, where are you in the process, what do you need to get in place, so that when you go ahead and apply to be one of our projects, that you'll have all these pieces in place, which are all things that you have to be doing in order to actually develop yourself as a nonprofit entity anyway.
Right.
So what we're doing is we're helping you get that head start. Then you come in and apply to be one of our projects and in the fiscal sponsorship program. If you would simply like to work on developing your board or your business plan or some of the other readiness steps, we can help you with that too through our consultation program. So we have a consultation program, we have fiscal sponsorship program, and we have a Pathways to Justice leadership development program that we're just beginning to envision in a way that we can extend our reach out into the wider UU and progressive communities that are out there.
Great. So before, I want to talk a little bit more about the Pathways to Justice. But first, so in addition to that fiscal sponsorship, you can do things, we work with programs such as, so if there's a need or interest in grants, you can offer support in reviewing grants, helping to strengthen those. And then, but when you mentioned the board work, so in terms of supporting boards, when you mentioned consulting, so if there's a congregation or a nonprofit that has a board and just needs to do some board development work, you'll work with nonprofits, existing nonprofits. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, we can help organizations, wherever they are in this process. We've got people on our board and in our extended network that, like yourself, Peter, who do a lot of work in congregation leadership and also out in the community, so that we kind of meet people where they are in this developmental process, which we realize is part of that Pathways to Justice overview, which is that it is a pathway, and we're at different stages. So what we're creating is we call a learning community, where we're trying to learn from one another, from the organizations that have been so successful, like UJazz. What are some of the elements that help them succeed and give them sticking power, and how might we use those ourselves as an organization and share those with the projects that we are working with and the other organizations we might consult with.
Great. Now, I just want to say to our viewers, if you have a question, there's a little icon that it looks like a 3x3 grid. If you click on that, one of the little apps there's the showcase, which features some links, including a link to Chalice Oak Foundation, but there's also a Q&A feature. So if you have a question, please, you can submit a question. I'll see your question and I can share it with John and Laurel. So in terms of the work that you're doing supporting nonprofits, what haven't we covered? We talked about fiscal sponsorship, working with boards, reviewing grants, consulting. Oh, so Pathways to Justice. The Pathway to Justice program, so that's something that you're working to develop, and can you give us a little bit more information on what's your vision for that? Is it bringing together different leaders from multiple potential organizations, or what would that look like?
So the Pathways to Justice program is directed specifically at Unitarian Universalist justice leaders, whether they're based in a congregation or they're associated with some other some other group. And what we're hoping to do with that is help them take their existing ideas, whatever they are, and grow them beyond the idea stage. Now, we do have some requirements in terms of interest and experience with the ideas, so it can't just be a raw idea and we're going to take it to the next level for you. It needs to be an idea that's actually got some energy around. You might have already tried a project, it might be successful. So we're really not at the exploratory stage. We're at the we've done this project in our congregation, or a group of us have gotten together and done this project, and we think this really has some legs to it. We will help you at that next level figure out what you need to do to, first of all, get any money at all, and then later on as part of a regular program to grow into your own nonprofits. But it's aimed at Unitarian Universalist justice leaders wherever they are, and then we hope to grow a network of these folks so that they're sharing their ideas together. A web-based network that will allow for some cross-fertilization. I think it's often the case in Unitarian Universalism, as is true with almost any progressive group. We think we have to invent the wheel, and we don't have to invent the wheel. There are groups that are doing something similar to what you're doing. It might be a good idea to join forces together, and or someone may have resources that you could use in your project and carry it forward. So it's really taking that idea that's had a little bit of success and growing it a little bit farther. That's the Pathways to Justice program.
Great. Well, I want to first thank you for the work you're doing. But before I do that, so I think I want to tell you how awesome I think the Chalice Oak Foundation is. See if there are any last bits of advice or just cheerleading you have for people out there. But first, it's one thing that in my work with congregations just as we're all working to innovate, finding new ways to take our work and ministry out into the world, to accomplish more. I know it is really challenging work to be a leader and try and start new things. So I personally want to just say thank you to everyone who's watching this live and in the future when it's archived on YouTube. Thank you for being an innovator and a leader. We really need to be doing ministry and justice work in new ways, and there's so much for us to do. So I just want to thank everyone for their leadership. And then as far as Chalice Oak, oh my God, I love what you guys are doing, because for so many years I've encountered congregational leaders who are working in the space between, they're doing something larger than what really makes sense to do and sustain long term within a congregation. It's starting to move out into the world and taking on a new life. And I think that if you, this might be something good for us to talk about for just a few minutes. If you're doing work in the congregation and then you start moving out and you don't move fully and efficiently into this space where you're a healthy nonprofit that is, I think, stable, I think like being in the middle creates a lot of tension, anxiety, and can really burn people out. And so I think maybe it's really smart to think intentionally about, are we inside the congregation? Are we moving towards being in the larger world in a way that would necessitate or be smart to be a nonprofit? And how do we navigate that transition? Do you guys have observations on what it's like if you spend too much time maybe in the middle? What do you think about that?
Well, I think you get burned out really fast. Is the short answer. That working within a congregation is, and I've been doing this a long time.
You're a senior minister. Where are you now?
I'm at the Westport Unitarian Church in Westport, Connecticut. So I think that it's important to remember that a congregation and its leadership is going to be interested specifically in what the project can do for members of the congregation. So if the project starts to become successful, and there are other groups who want to partner with the congregation to do this project, sometimes that works great, and we have examples. Jericho Road in Massachusetts is a great example of that happening. But sometimes it's a little more difficult, and how to say this, but perhaps we get a little territorial sometimes when other groups start getting interested in our work.
Never.
It's uncomfortable, and that's the time, if the project is worth, never happens. That's the time when we should be moving on and thinking about branching into our own nonprofit.
Well, I'll add that for those of us who have worked in congregations or out in the community, involved in some of the congregational programs and ministries, that it really does grow to be very dependent on the infrastructure of the congregation, which is sometimes difficult to manage as things get larger and grow. So it's a nice option, I think, for the congregations to be able to know that when they bring a justice ministry into the world, that there's some other way for it to be supported so that it can really carry forth out and extend the values, rather than being limited by what the infrastructure can handle. And so what we hope to do is to provide that warm handoff, from congregation and from the places where these programs emerge, to helping them really grow and flourish in the world. And that's, I think, the beauty of these services that we offer and what we do.
Fabulous. Well, I know that, so you're actively working on seeking new programs, new projects to work with, but also, this goes back to the conversation we had earlier, Laurel and John, that you're also looking for support for the larger work of the Chalice Oak Foundation. So you're accepting donations, from people who really want to see, you continue to offer the services that you're providing and are really developing your foundation further as an institution that can support this kind of justice-focused innovation. Maybe, John, since you're president of the board, do you want to say something, maybe a little pitch to people who might be considering supporting the Chalice Oak Foundation? Is more of
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's always funny when I tell people that I work with a foundation. They think we have a lot of money to give away. What we have to give away is a lot of experience and a lot of connections. We're at a critical place. We have had a great track record working with programs, and we have the opportunity now to go to a whole different level, really unite a lot of programs under our Unitarian Universalist values. We are looking for sustaining contributions, so if you'd like to contact me individually about how you could be a sustainer, I certainly would appreciate that. We will be looking for some large donations in the coming months as we get ready to launch the Pathways to Justice program and take it to the next level. We ourselves are a little bit of a success story, so we'd like to be able to share that success with so many other Unitarian Universalist organizations and individuals that have a passion for justice and want to make it happen. We have the experience and we have the structure to do that. We're also looking for those people who want to back us in that good work.
Great. Well, I want to thank everyone for tuning in, and also to both of you for your work, and then just give each of you a chance, just for a closing remark, thoughts, or cheerleading for those tuning in. So thank you for supporting our UU Justice Ministries and helping them to develop into more sustainable and thriving nonprofits. That's such important work, and we really need to have institutions like yours, I think, supporting these kind of programs, because it's different from what our larger association does, and being an association of congregations. And we all have different specialties. So, like, I am an independent consultant. I do more and more work, really looking to the future and what does Unitarian Universalism need to learn next, and really coaching clergy and congregational leaders on integrating ministry and media. That's kind of the focus of my work right now. But you have this fabulous specialty as well. So thank you. And just to close out, final thoughts or cheerleading for people, Laurel?
Well, first I want to say thank you to you, Peter, and to all of your work through UU Planet. You've been a fabulous mentor for me over the years as we've both evolved through our various career paths and the ways that we carried our work out into the world. So I want to thank you for hosting this program. And also to just really encourage people to get in touch, check out our website, and see our other programs that we're really proud to be a sponsor for and to support. And realizing that all of us, I think, are stronger together. And so to the extent that we can work together and collaborate in helping bring these values and justice into being in the world are just, we're better for it. So let's get out there together and change this world for the best.
Final thought, John?
Yeah, Peter, I also want to thank you, and I guess the fact that we're having this broadcast at all is an example of the new face of Unitarian Universalism. We want to be, and we are going to be right on that edge with all groups that are doing good work. You're not alone. That's my big message. A lot of times we think we're all alone. It's so not true. There are so many people who want to help, and help organizations like the ones perhaps you're thinking of working with, or you're already working with, to help you get started. Chalice Oak is one of those tools in the toolbox of the future. And reach out to us, and we'll keep reaching out to folks to try to make this the world that we dream of. So thank you very much.
All right. Well, with that, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. I hope this program has been helpful. I'm going to play around with doing more sessions like this. So with that, a final thank you to both of you, and to all of you who are doing justice work. We need you. You're awesome. It's so important, and you're not alone. You're not alone. And I would just say, don't wait until it's too late to contact Chalice Oak. I get a lot of people contacting me when it's a crisis situation, and there's so much work that could have been done a year earlier. And there's still great work to be done. But so if you're thinking that, oh, maybe the Chalice Oak Foundation could be a great partner and work with you, reach out to Laurel immediately, and you can have that initial conversation. All right. Well, thank you so much for your work. And again, it's chaliceoak.org, right?
Yep.
chaliceoak.org.